It is Saturday night. Once again, this is I always forget what I call this now. The overnight mouse party. I'm DM Foss, and so far we've got Hillbilly, American Hillbilly Up. How's it going?
Great, buddy, great. How you doing on this fine Saturday night? Or
Doing
should I
pretty
say
good.
Sunday morning for me and Gary?
Gives Gary, how you doing?
Well, I'm home. I'm home. A little tired and jet lagged, but I'm home. Doing all right. Thank you for
Happy
having
to
me.
have you here, and we'll see if anybody else joins us here in a little bit. There's a link at the top of the chat for this week's poll. If you haven't voted in the poll, head over there and vote. We'll take a look at that here in just a little bit. So how was your shot show, Gary? Would you consider it a success? Did you get done what you wanted to get done?
Yes, I would consider it a success overall. I had a goal of trying to work with some more companies and build some more relationships, and I did what I expected to, and then some. Some new opportunities presented themselves while I was there, and I was able to take advantage of those. And if everything pans out, it's going to be a great year. I expect to see a lot more knife reviews. Hint, hint, hint.
Uh, what was the most interesting thing that you saw at Shot Show?
Most interesting thing that I saw at SHOT Show.
You want him to answer this honestly?
He said at SHOT Show.
Oh, that's not so.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh gosh. Um, Most interesting thing. I'd have to go right up there with the new O site. Definitely. Well, the two new O sites were definitely right up there. Interesting stuff. The new Keltec 5.7 pistol. I got to not only see it, I actually got to shoot it. Uh, I got to shoot a lever action rifle for the very first time and loved it.
I'm so happy for you.
I was I didn't want to do it. I told Snob and them were trying to
Oh,
get me to do it. It's like I'm not interested in that stuff. He said, "Go shoot it, Gizzard. You'll love it." So
Oh,
finally, I went up there and I shot it, and I was ringing steel. It's like, man, I want one of these now. Damn it!
I do. I want one. I have never shot one, but I do
It
want.
was super fun.
oh man. Something about it just brings out the little cowboy in you or something, you know?
So speaking of that Keltec,
Hmm?
how was that one? When I first kind of saw some clips on YouTube about it, I wasn't interested. Then the more I kind of looked into it, it's like, well, this looks a little more interesting than I thought. I wish it was a different caliber, but
Now, I didn't have to load it or anything. They do that for you when they hand you the gun. Shooting wise, virtually zero recoil, easy to keep on target and everything. You're shooting 223 Remington out of there. But no, there's hardly any recoil. It's like shooting about any pistol. Well, way less than a 9 millimeter as far as recoil. Easy to keep on target and stuff. So for that aspect of it, I liked it.
so how did the build quality seem? Was it like all the other Keltecs, or was it a little bit?
Plastic and screws.
It didn't seem that bad. Uh, I
I
didn't
thought it
get it.
looked better.
It looked a little better. It felt good in the hand as far as that goes. They had the grips contoured nicely and stuff like that, and about the right ratios and everything. Even for small hands, I was able to get to the trigger really easy and stuff like that. And They had an optic on it and everything. And yeah, it was good. Now they only gave me 5 shots, but everybody that shot it, I think, seemed to like it.
I'm kind of curious on how that one will do.
The price isn't real high on it, so I imagine it might end up being a hit. Some Keltecs are good sellers. Not all of
Hmm.
them, mind you, but some are. They kind of have gotten into the habit the last couple of years of going into a niche where nobody else is and creating something special. And I think that's how they exist is they have unique offerings and stuff like that.
They their designs are outside the box,
Hmm.
um, which I applaud them for. I just kind of wish maybe they would be a designer company and then another company would build them so that they would be
Well,
built a little better.
it, I can't remember the name, but the owner of Keltec, he's been a designer for many, many years for
His name
other.
is Kelgren, I believe.
Yeah. Hmm. He designed a lot of firearms that most people see and use.
And there's a lot of people who love Keltex. I did a short with. I have a
I love
P17,
them.
and I did a short with it, and it pokes a little bit of fun at they're kind of fugly, but I got a bunch of comments about. Some people kind of didn't get the sarcasm in it. That I wasn't trashing the gun because
I actually think Keltec wears that as a badge
Hmm.
that they look that way. I think they do it that way on purpose. They don't want to be like everybody else.
Well, I think, the way they design that is so it's like if you work all your life, in the firearm industry and as a designer and everything, like you kind of, it's like, it's time for me to almost retire. And I don't give a shit. I'm going to make some fun stuff, you know? And I know at least four Keltecs, and I love each and every one of them. Um, I mean, honestly, I do. And I'm not like you know, trying to promote them. I mean, it is what you get, but I just enjoy the aspect of them. I mean, my KSD shotgun. I mean, that is amazing what they designed a double magazine. For that and so many rounds. I mean, that thing it works and it runs. Um, and my other Keltecs they work and run.
yeah, the one I have. I've only had two, maybe three um, failures to fire, but I can't say whether it was the gun or the ammunition because it's 22. So you know, but other than that, I haven't had a problem with it. Um, so let me say hello to everybody that's out there so far. Um, G Webs was out there earlier. Hopefully he didn't fall asleep. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. Hang on. Let me get over where I need to be. Ooh, DJ was first. DJ Play Nice. G Webs. And Country Rimfire. Good evening. Nice to see you. Gizzard Gary. Mr. Bob Topolina. And let's see. The Poor Conservative. Good evening. And hopefully I didn't miss anybody. I think that's everybody who said something so far. Oh, and I just remembered, let me get the banner going. Here we go. At the bottom of the screen is an email address, untacticalfloss@gmail.com, and a link for the Discord server. You can send in comments, suggestions, or pictures within reason. And if you watch this in replay, leave a comment. Anything we talk about, agree with, disagree with, think we left out, let me know. I always read the comments, and they are always appreciated. So let's go over and look at the poll, this week's poll. Let me call it up here. So So this week's poll was, what percentage do you tip? Up to 10%, 11% to 20%, over 20%, or I don't tip. They get paid a wage. 45% said 11% to 20%. 27% said over 20%. 19% for 10%. And 9% said I don't tip. Looking at the comments, McWillie said based on service, but I'm not picky either. I do tip well. Chris Lang, depends on food and service. Unscrupulous Rapscallion, which is Mr. Bob Doppelina. It really depends on who I'm tipping for what. If it's counter service like coffee shop, the coin in my change or $1 if I have to carry my stuff to the table. If it's table service, up to 5 to 20% depending on quality of service and how long I'm at the table. If I'm doing a meeting over lunch and stay an hour or more, that should reflect more in a more generous tip because I tied up their potential for another patron to tip at that table. If it's for maid service at a hotel, $5 to $10 per day. I stay depending on quality of service. I feel like tips are earned, not just something given to augment servers' income. And New York Outcast, it depends on service and place. If it's all well and I start at 20% and round up to a dollar amount, I have tipped 50%, but it's rare and on a small bill. What about you guys? How are you on that tipping?
If the service is decent, it's going to be 20%, which generally most of the time I'll tip 20. If it's above and beyond, I'll add a little more to that. It may be 25%. If it's lacking, it's going to vary, but it's going to be sub 20%. So it varies, but most of the time, yeah, I'm right around the 20% thing.
That's usually where I'm at. How about you, Hillbilly?
Oh man. Well, I always have tried to tip, pretty decent. And when I go into a place, I plan on the tip as being part of the money that I'm going to spend, to eat on or whatever. But it does change, if it's if you go up to the window or whatever and go back and get your food to where you have table service. So I agree with like Mr. Bob and a lot of that stuff and everybody else. But it wasn't until like I knew people in that service, like family members, friends. A lot of restaurants there for quite a long time. If that person, that waiter or waitress, if they sell say $100 worth of food, the government taxes them on 20% of that as a tip. So if you don't tip your waiter or waitress, it actually costs them money. And so once I learned that, I've always tipped at least 20%, just because of that, that reason. And I don't think it's fair, for somebody to work. And those people, most usually, they don't get minimum wage. They get way less than minimum wage. And not only that, a lot of restaurants require them to dry silverware, vacuum the floor, and all that for $3 or $4 an hour. So they have more hours they're working than they're actually waiting on people, and they're not getting minimum wage.
I just want to say hello to Sunny Guns. It's out there. Yeah, I'll usually. It's a $3 minimum, so if the 20% would equal less than $3, they're going to get $3.
Mm-hmm.
And when got some old friends that we've been getting together for a little while now, and we'll sit there for a long time, and usually the tip will end up being about 100% because one person will pay the bill, then everybody else throws in for the tip, and then everybody
Mm-hmm.
end up throwing in a lot. But we're sitting there eating up table time, kind of like Mr. Bob was bringing up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you tip delivery drivers? I mean, other than like UPS or if somebody's bringing a couch, you tip them.
I mean, if they're like bringing something in the house or whatever, yeah, I would tip them. Um, somebody dropping an Amazon package off out, by the road, definitely not. But yeah,
I do. If they're delivering furniture, it'll just be maybe like $10 enough for if they stop fast food or something to get lunch.
yeah. And we just had a recent situation where my wife is like one of the first cold days she's driving to work in Branson, and she has pretty fairly new tires on the Hummer, and about halfway to work, gauge come on and said low tire, and so she goes, I'm just going to go back to where I bought them at because it went too far from our work, and he said that they had a sign outside and it was cold. I mean, we're talking below freezing. And they had a sign outside that said free air check. And they had some poor son gun out there with an air hose and a tire gauge, in a line, cars pulling in, checking their tires, putting air in them and everything. And I'm talking to my wife on the phone. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I feel terrible for this guy." And so, I was like, I don't know if anybody else was tipping him, but you need to make his day better. The poor guy's out there freezing his butt off, doing a free service, they're not charging for this. And so, yeah, she tipped him quite nice, with cash. And she said that the smile on his face, like it just set another fire underneath him. He's just so happy to be appreciated. So you can do wonders for people, on situations.
I did fix the furnace flue. I got the leak taken care of. I ended up pulling it all apart.
Yay!
I had to add like a 6-inch piece, and then everything fit.
Oh, right.
I loosened all the joints and tried to wiggle it, and it just wouldn't work. And so I just pulled everything apart. Ended up there's an adjustable 90-degree elbow in there. It came apart so I ran down to Home Depot, and the stuff at Home Depot is not as good as the commercial quality
Yeah.
stuff that was put in, but it was enough where I could get everything sealed up. And I told my wife she doesn't have to worry about dying in her sleep anymore. So
It's always nice.
that's usually, for the last couple months, come the end of the chat, I'm pretty gassed from the carbon monoxide coming off it. But finally got it all fixed. The Supreme Court did not take the assault weapon ban, the semi-automatic rifle ban, or the magazine capacity cases.
Oh no.
So we'll have to wait maybe a couple of weeks, see if there's a dissent that the justice is right, and then we can kind of see what's going on. Just there's like a sliver of hope that it might get pushed off, but it sounds like pretty much they're not taking it. So I'm not sure what happens now. Guns and Barbecue, how you doing? You're muted if you're saying something.
What can mute button? Sorry about that. Doing all right, you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing better now that you're here.
You bet.
Just woke up.
Your emoji looks like a sad Cyclops.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get my avatar back up. I'm not sure what's going on with it.
Yeah, it's different on here, and so I had to search and try to find mine too.
Well, that's just the standard one.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I before I put mine back up, or finally got it put up, I'm like, that looks like a sad Cyclops.
I had to click on my name up on the upper right of the screen, and then click on the pencil next to my name. That's where you could upload the stuff. But if I don't have my camera on, you can't see George.
Did George miss you while you were gone?
George missed me very much.
Did you board him or send him to a friend's? Or?
No, he stayed right here. He watched the place while I was gone.
He's a watch cat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's always stayed on his own. Now, the first couple of years, I had somebody come and check on him midweek, but I always set out plenty of food and lots of water and stuff like that, and he's usually fine. I did turn the heat down just a little, and I felt really bad because it got really cold when I was gone. And the inside temperature here got down to around 65 on a couple of days. So. But he's a cat. He's got a fur coat, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. Cats don't really need us other than food and water. And they're pretty much self,
Well, I have cameras in every room, so I could check on him, and he was sitting in the same places that he's not supposed to sit, that he sits while I'm here.
Yeah, you didn't have a party or nothing?
Nah. I've got the Ring cameras, so I can talk to him and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I knew he was okay. I could check on him.
Yeah, I have that Alexa show or whatever, so I can drop in and actually see, on the camera and stuff. And anytime I drop in, I say something to the dogs, they immediately run to the front door. So it don't do any good. They're like, "Oh, Dad's outside. We need to run to the front door."
George usually doesn't do much, but if it's dark inside here and it's using the night vision, if I talk to him, I can see his eyes open because they'll light up in the night vision and stuff like that.
There you go. I love that one.
There you go.
I thought that'd be a good one.
Just waiting for a new comment. There we go. Ozzy Orsborn said picked up new CZ75 PO1 Thursday. Holster is in progress.
Awesome.
I think this guy buys new guns just so he can make a new holster every once in a while.
Oh man, he makes some nice holsters too.
Oh, he does.
Jeez. And I always I like all of them, but man, that snake skin he puts on a lot of them just really adds to it. I like that.
Yeah, that's snazzy.
I've got one here. Ozzy made for me.
Oh yeah, that buckle. That dude looks so nice.
I do appreciate it, Ozzy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he won a coffee cup tonight from Hasbro. I was joking, see if he was going to make a holster for that coffee cup.
Oh, you guys want to do a bracket?
A bracket?
Whatever you want
Where's
to do.
G
bud.
West? He's going to be in here soon.
I was kind of waiting, but he might have fallen asleep.
Yeah,
don't know,
he got
sounds like
here
a
an
rabbit.
hour early.
'Cause he had asked me an hour ago when the chat was. He might have fallen back asleep.
Well, he was at SHOT Show too, so.
Yeah. There we go. Carolina EDC reviews. It's out there. Good evening.
Good to see her right there.
Let me do this then.
Let's get it on!
So,
Shoo.
bring up our bracket. Let's see, and we'll make that one bigger. Let me try. Nope, that's not what I want. Just trying out some of the other. I guess it's gonna make me big no matter what. What if I drag that up there? There we go. That's still too small. All right, we'll just make that big. So this week's bracket, best Bob. So it's not Robert, not Bobby, Bob. And it's, even if their name is Robert, if they're known by Bob, or if I know them by Bob, that's how I came up with the Bob list. There's a website I came across of the big list of Bobs, and it lists a whole bunch of Bobs, categorizes them, like football player, baseball player, actor. And then there's a list of everybody named Bob that just submitted their name. Regular people, Bob. But, let me...
Well, Mr. Bob Dabalina is going to be hard to beat. He's pretty tough.
Let me do this first. We'll go through who's on the list. So let me pull that
Okay.
so I can share something else here real quick. I'll bring that up. So we've got Bob Uecker, baseball player, was in Mr. Belvedere. And
Yeah, he's sick.
Bob Hope, comedian and actor. And I don't know him personally. Well, I didn't know him personally, but pretty awesome that he did all those USO shows for 3 different wars at least.
Oh, yeah.
Bob the Builder. Bob Marley. Bob Newhart. I've always been a Bob Newhart ever since I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a little kid, I watched the Bob Newhart show, and then Newhart. Bob Vila. He helped kind of kick off the do-it-yourself stuff in the 70s when there was a big push. Everybody was kind of renovating stuff themselves. Came out with this old house.
Yeah, this old house.
Bob Dylan, the musician. Bob Gibson, the baseball pitcher. Bob from the Black Hole movie. Mr. Bob Dabalina.
Woohoo!
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Another favorite.
Bob Barker, Bob Crane, and I was hoping G-Webs would be here for. Is anybody familiar with the website C Crane? They did radios, and in the '90s they were kind of ahead of the curve,
Yeah.
the technology. C Crane, that's Bob's son. That's Bob Crane Jr.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he didn't want to use his dad's name, so he went with C Crane when he made the company.
Starlock. Hogan's Heroes love the show, man.
Bob Denver. He was Gilligan's Island, Dobie Gillis,
Oh yeah.
Far Out Space Nuts. And then there was one, I think it was a Western, which I'm not familiar with. Yeah, Bob Evans. You can go by either the restaurant or the founder, who's Bob Evans.
Yeah.
Bob Ross. I think that's our last one.
He got a brother named Snob Ross, don't he?
Probably they're cousins.
Cousins.
So that's our list of Bobs. And I'll bring back the bracket.
I would like to boycott. I cannot believe Billy Bob from Varsity Blues is not on here.
Well, one of the reasons is I didn't watch that. I didn't watch Varsity Blues, so
Billy
I'm
Bob.
deeply hurt. I'm gonna say he's like my spirit animal.
Mr. Bob Dobolinas said when Bob
That's
Hope
a good one.
was in St. Louis, my dad, who was hotel security at the time, would walk with him around downtown at 3 or 4 in the morning so he wouldn't get mobbed.
Wow.
And Country Rimfire said, I love The Black Hole. I loved it since I was a kid. Ozzy said Bob Hope was my favorite. Is my favorite. Love all his old black and white movies. Ozzy also said Bob Denver did a knockoff GI about Wagon Train. So, let me get that a little bigger. And see if I can enlarge this just a hair. There we go. There we go. Oh, so let me shuffle. Oops, I gotta scroll up to shuffle, I think. Shuffle a bunch, get these all mixed up. Any questions on the Bobs?
Actually, yeah. What about Bob?
Yeah, Bobolina.
What about Bob Moran?
When I was researching Bob's, that did come up, but I didn't think enough people would know either that movie or the character by name.
Oh, it's such a good movie, though.
I liked it. I didn't love it.
It does get a little old, but at the same time, it's still good.
So the first matchup is Bob Barker versus Bob Marley.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to say Bob Barker versus Bob Uecker. I was going to get mad.
So we'll start with you, Barbecue. Bob Barker or Bob Marley?
Price is wrong, Bobby.
You're going Barker?
Oh, yeah.
Bob Barker. Hillbilly.
Oh man. I'm actually gonna go with Bob Barker. I like some Bob Marley shows, songs, but I watched a lot more Bob Barker.
Sounds like
Yeah.
Hillbilly's doing that good stuff with Bob Marley. He's like, I like the Bob Marley shows. Oh wait, I mean songs.
Yeah.
And if there's a tie, it'll go out to the chat. So, Gary, Bob Barker or Bob Marley?
Well, Bob Marley did more to advance the genre of reggae music than just about anyone. And after all, he did shoot the sheriff. He did not shoot the deputy. I'm going to go with Bob Marley here.
One for Bob Marley. Mr. Bob Novelina said he'd go Bob Marley. Bob Barker had some kind of tiff with Betty White. And who doesn't like Betty White?
That's true.
And Betty White is amazingly funny.
Oh man.
I got into a thing where I was watching To Tell the Truth back from the late 50s, early 60s. And she was on that. It was, there'd be a panel of four celebrities. And then they'd have three people pretending to be, there'd be one person and then two people pretending to be that one person. And then the panel had to figure out who is the real person. And Betty White was on that. And she was funny back then. She's always been funny.
So I thought of a Bob that's not on here, and it's because this Bob and Betty White died at the same time as Bob Saget.
Saget's came up, but I've never liked Bob Saget.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Didn't
it's just-
either.
you're
I
like,
didn't-
no, that guy sucked. He's not on this list.
Well, he
Like
had his stand up was so foul mouthed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I did not care for him personally.
Well, this is going to be a tie because I'm going Bob Marley.
What?
Yeah. So the chat needs to vote Bob Barker or Bob Marley.
Looks like this is jammed up in a tie, so we be jamming.
I'm just gonna say, I mean, Eric Clapton shot the sheriff too.
Yeah, long after Marley did. Marley wrote it.
That might be, but
Yeah, To Tell the Truth, that was the show.
Barbecue, your mic's breaking up a little bit, buddy.
crap.
And breaking up is hard to do. That was not Bob Marley, by the way.
Ozzy said Bob Marley is a nickname for a gun that jams a lot.
That's right. We be jamming. We be jamming again.
Oh. So while we're waiting for the chat to vote on either Bob Marley or Bob Barker, we'll move on to the next matchup. Bob Gibson, the pitcher, versus Bob Evans, the restaurant. Barbecue.
Bob Evans or who?
Bob Gibson, the St. Louis pitcher. From the 60s? Was he?
Gibson.
Gary? He pitched in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went Gibson?
Yep.
Oh, one for Gibson? Hillbilly.
Man, this is tough being a Cardinals fan too. Man, I'm gonna have to follow my belly on this one. I'm gonna go with Bob Evans restaurant. Good stuff.
One for Bob Evans. Doesn't his son Steve Evans have a restaurant or something like that?
I believe so.
There aren't any Bob Evans around here.
Oh,
Thought I came
we
across that when I was looking.
have some here, and they're real similar. It's like a Cracker Barrel type home cooking, good stuff.
Gary.
Possibly the most dominating pitcher in the major leagues in the mid to late 60s.
Mhm.
The reason they lowered the pitcher's mound in Major League Baseball was because of Bob Gibson. That's a fact.
Yeah, it is.
Bob Gibson, 100%.
Bob Gibson. Mr. Bob Dabalina said Gibby was a beast on the mound. And Ozzy said, as a Cardinals fan, I got to say Gibson. Mr. Bob said Euchre was his catcher and went to the mound to talk to Gibby. Gibby said, where are you going? Euchre said he was going to talk to center field. Euchre was a pretty funny guy.
Yeah.
Every interview I've seen with him, he's. I'm gonna have to go Gibson. I've never eaten at a Bob Evans. I've tried. I think their macaroni and cheese from the frozen section.
Oh yeah.
Or no, it was in the deli, so it was cold but not frozen. I didn't like it. I think it was Bob Evans. So I'm going Gibson. So Bob Gibson's going to move on, and I guess Bob Marley's going to move on because there's only one comment up there about saying Marley. So Marley and Gibson both move on. Now we've got two builders, Bob Vila and Bob Barbecue.
I really feel like this is rigged. I've got to go with Bob Vila only because Bob the Builder has never appeared on Tool Time. That's the only reason I'm voting for Bob Vila in this.
So one for Bob Vila. Country Ribfire said never heard of Bob Evans over here on the West Coast.
Yeah, I think it's more of a Southern thing.
I've heard the name, but have never seen a Bob Evans restaurant.
Yeah, and they look just like the picture you showed earlier. The restaurants did. So,
Ozzy said Bob Evans is just okay. So Hillbilly, Bob Vila or Bob the Builder?
Oh man, I am going to go with Bob the Builder because I'm hoping that he inspired a lot of young folks to get their hands on and build stuff. I know a few youngsters that enjoyed that cartoon, so I'm going to give props to him.
So one for Bob the Builder. Gary.
Wow. Do I have to vote for one?
Yes. Well, you can send it to
the audience doesn't seem to be real interested in participating tonight. I'm going to go with Bob Vila. Only because I've never watched a full episode of Bob the Builder.
Country Rimfire said Bob the Builder. Yes. Can we do it? Yes, we can. I'm going to go with Bob Vila. I too have never watched a full episode of Bob the Builder. So Bob Vila moves on. Now we've got Bob Dylan versus Bob Denver. Barbecue.
So don't know squat about Bob Denver. And when I hear Bob Denver, I think of John Denver. And like that just seems like the bastard cousin of John Denver at that point, which is even less reason to vote for Bob Denver. And who's the other one again?
Bob Dylan.
Oh yeah, Bob Dylan. There's actually a little fun fact I heard about Bob Dylan a long time ago, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. So I'm going to go with Bob Dylan based on that fun fact that I can't remember.
but that he was a dick.
No, it's something with one of his songs. It was actually really cool. And I wish for the life of me that I could remember it because it was pretty neat when I heard that. But like I said, for the life of me, I can't remember what the hell the fun fact was.
Well, if you didn't know, Bob Denver was Gilligan.
And Maynard G. Krebs.
Well,
I don't
say,
think
that sucks.
Maynard G. Krebs. Hillbilly. Bob Dylan. Bob Denver. You're muted. Hillbilly, are you there? Did you fall down and can't get up?
Okay. Sorry. Sorry, wife was hollering at me for a second.
Yeah. So Bob Dylan or Bob Denver?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Gary.
Well, Bob Dylan kind of defined a period in the 60s. But then again, Bob Denver kind of defined a period in the late 50s and then kind of was a household name again in the late 60s, early 70s. But which one had the bigger impact on culture? It's hard to say. But looks like he needs a vote. I'm going with Bob Denver.
Bob Denver.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Ozzy said Denver. Country Rimfire, Bob Denver. Mr. Bob Dabalina said Bob Dylan. His songs are special. He's a real wordscraftsman. He did upset his fans when he went electric, though.
The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Oh. Yeah, Mr. Bob said in Bob Denver's defense, he had the Oh God movie, too. Was he in Oh God?
I thought that was George Burns.
Yeah, it was George Burns. I don't know if Denver was also in it. I don't remember.
That's John Denver.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob Denver and John Denver, two different people. And there's Denver Pyle, who's a completely different person. He was on Dukes of Hazzard.
Well. I don't know. This one's kind of tough. I used to be a Bob Dylan fan. Kind of the older I got, the less of a fan I was. As when I was younger, I liked Gilligan's Island. The older I got, the less I liked Gilligan. Thought they should have thrown him in the ocean.
I don't think they should have thrown him in the ocean. They should have just taken him over to that part of the island where the cannibals lived. And just had that take care of him. Because I feel like if they threw him in the ocean, he would have come back.
Anybody who could live on an island that long with a pair of white pants and a white hat and never get him filthy dirty.
Well, I'm surprised nobody ever got pregnant.
Well, they had
to gotta sleep with Gilligan. Could you imagine?
Oh,
Marianne, maybe.
And I will say this about Bob Dylan, especially in later years, it is kind of hard to understand his lyrics, some, here and there, but
I'm gonna go Denver. I'm gonna go Bob Denver.
So we tied?
Yeah, so let's go back up.
Sorry, I want to change my answer to Bob Denver.
You want to change to Bob Denver?
I say after I learned that Bob Denver was actually Gilligan, I was like, oh yeah, I'd much rather vote for Gilligan than Bob Dylan.
Well, I think Denver would have moved on either way. So
Oh, okay.
Denver moves on. So now we've got SpongeBob SquarePants against Bob Euchre. Barbecue.
Definitely Bob Euchre. Like, if you knew nothing of his playing baseball or anything else, all you have to do is watch the movie Major League.
Just
incredible.
Get outside.
Yeah.
Just
It's a little bit outside.
I would say him being the color commentator in that movie for the radio is incredible. Oh my god.
Well, it's kind of funny when Dave Niehaus, the voice of the Seattle Mariners, when he died, there were kind of stories that came out that the stuff you saw in major leagues with Bob Euchre is kind of stuff that Dave Niehaus would say. You know, like they'd bring in a pitcher, a relief pitcher, and give him all the stats, and then when he cut the mic, he's like, "Why the hell are they bringing this?"
Yeah. Yep.
So Fuku Waiti's out there.
Hey, man.
So Hillbilly, SpongeBob or Bob Euchre?
Ah, man. A lot of these are really tough, really. I love SpongeBob. I mean,
This could have been a finals match, honestly.
yeah, I mean, like, I even like Patrick better than SpongeBob. But, man, Bob Euchre is just so funny, and I enjoyed his, 80s sitcom, it says Mr. Belvedere's.
Yeah.
And that was funny. And so I want to go with Bob Euchre on this one. And no shame to SpongeBob.
Gary.
This is no contest. This is going to be unpopular as hell, but I can't stand SpongeBob.
I thought you were about to vote for SpongeBob. I was like, what?
No. God. Just hearing that stupid theme song just
There
drives
lives an
me
ocean
nuts.
under the sea.
Euchre. Over.
Bob Euchre. Country Rimfire said SpongeBob. I am not a SpongeBob fan, though. I mean, the Kurgan does one of the voices in SpongeBob. That's the only reason I would ever maybe think about watching it. But yeah, I don't know. I just have never really got SpongeBob.
I don't mind it. Although, as we were sitting here, it dawned on me that SpongeBob is kind of like the cartoon version of Gilligan. Like, if they just kill SpongeBob, Bikini Bottom would be a lot better off.
Well, and a lot of times it depends on when you have kids growing up. So, you know, that when that's on the TV a lot, you end up watching it. And, you know, other than, you know, if you didn't have kids, that would, you know, be something you wouldn't watch much. So,
And it kind of matches up too. You got Mr. Krabs, who would be Skipper. And you got Sandy, who's the professor. You got Squidward, who could kind of match up as Mr. Hal. You put Patrick in as Mrs. Hal, obviously not a girl, but just kind of dumb and oblivious there, semi-drunk. And say not anybody really to fit Ginger and Marianne, but you know, you don't have to fill every role, but you know, it kind of works out. Like, just kill SpongeBob, everybody's better off at that point.
well, you got Squidward.
Well, I made Squidward Mr. Hal, just kind of grumpy and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Clancy Brown does Mr. Krabs. Clancy Brown was the Kurgan in the Highlander.
Oh, yeah.
So Mr. Bob said Squidward, Country Rimfire. Squidward is amazing. And Fuku Waiti, 9 grandkids. I can't tell you how many times I've had to watch SpongeBob.
Exactly, Boom. Yeah,
My kids get mad at me because, like, obviously I a lot of times can't even tell what's going on the TV or anything, but I can still recite SpongeBob episodes word for word from growing up with it. And they're like, "How do you know this?" I'm like, "Because it came out when I was younger than you." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's that friggin' old. Shut up."
Oh, so now we've got Bob Newhart versus Bob Hope.
Oh man.
Yeah, I think that's another tough one. Barbecue.
Remind me of Bob Newhart real quick. Sorry.
The Bob Newhart Show.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. We'll just go with Bob Hope then.
Well, but also Bob Newhart's also been on recent shows. Well, I mean, to say recent, but
Not real recent because he's dead now.
well, I know, but what was the what was the name of that show that was real popular? The science.
He appeared on
Science
Big Bang Theory a couple times.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory. Yeah, so that is probably his most recent, I guess, show.
He did. He was. He did a skit on Mad TV.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He played a therapist, and there was a gal that was telling him his problems, and he pretty much said, "Well, this is easy to fix." And he leans over, he goes, "Stop it!"
I think I remember that one actually.
But his humor was like just different than most comedians, and I think that's why.
Yeah, he had a dry humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually remember that Mad TV sketch.
But the Bob Newhart show was like they had like this bread and breakfast deal out in the country, and
Well, that was Newhart.
Newhart, yeah, and
Yeah, the Bob Newhart, he played a therapist.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll go with Bob Hope just because I don't know enough about Newhart. So,
Well, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Hillbilly, Newhart or Hope?
Well, tell you what, I really like both of them, to be honest with you, and so I couldn't make a decision. To me, it's like a 50-50. So I want to pass mine on to the side chat.
So this one will go out to the chat. So we'll
Maybe it will.
give them a minute to gather their thoughts. So Gary, Newhart or Hope?
Had a good deal of respect for both of them, but the one that entertained me the most, because I'm old enough to remember both Bob Newhart shows very well. And I'm going to go with Bob Newhart.
Newhart. Country Rimfire said neither.
Ah, boo.
Ozzy said Bob Hope. Fuku Waiti, Bob Hope. Country Rimfire can't stand either one of them. Mr. Bob said Newhart was a comedian. He had 2 big sitcoms. One, he was a shrink, and one, he ran a hotel in New Hampshire with Daryl, my brother. My other brother Daryl.
Yeah.
My name's Larry. This is my brother Daryl, and this is my other brother Daryl.
Yep.
But didn't he, on the very final episode of that show,
he woke up in bed with
Suzanne Pleshette? Yeah.
Yeah. It was all a dream.
It was his wife in the first series. Yeah.
Oh, This is tough. I really like both of them.
Me too.
God, this is really tough.
Yeah, this would be almost like the final two for me.
God, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I have to choose.
Choose wisely.
What happens if because I'm leaning towards Newhart. The chat is leaning towards Hope, and that would make it a tie, and it would go back out to the chat, which means Bob Hope would win. So I think
But in the end, it's your show.
I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to vote Newhart. The chat has already voted Bob Hope, which makes it a tie. And since the chat would be the tiebreaker also,
Bob Hope. The chat gets 2 votes?
Basically, yeah. That's the way the rules
are set up. That's not fair.
There is no other system.
I feel like what we should do is now force Hillbilly to vote.
Yeah, force Hillbilly to vote.
Oh, dude.
It's the only fair way to do it.
Yep.
Well, I mean, if I had to choose, and this is, I'm with, you guys, this is a very, very tough one. And I hate to go against the grain, but who, I have so much respect for Bob Hope and all he did, with his tours for the service and everything. But the person that probably impacted my life the most would be Bob Newhart.
So I guess that means Newhart is going to vote.
I hear what Hillbilly just said. Shit on the troops. I'm going for myself. Wow.
I didn't see that many things that Hope was in. Now, I have seen a few of the road movies. They're okay. White Christmas, yeah, it's good.
I'll have to ponder that. What happens in this situation so we have defined rules in the future. So, but for today, Bob Newhart's moving on. So now we've got Mr. Bob Dabalina. I'll say our own Mr. Bob Dabalina versus Bob Crane. That's a tough matchup for you. Sorry to say. Barbecue.
What is significant about Bob Crane?
Hogan's Heroes.
Oh shit. Just out of sympathy, because we got a lot of old guys on the panel. I'm going to give my vote to Bob. How the fuck you say his name? I'm getting all tongue twisted here. Mr. Bob, you're getting my vote just out of sympathy, because I have a feeling these old guys are going to go the Hogan's Heroes route, which I'm sure you can probably understand.
So one for Mr. Bob Dabalina. Mr. Bob Dabalina. Hillbilly.
Oh, man. I feel like if Mr. Bob was in Stalag 13, that it would even been a better show. He'd be playing music for everybody and definitely add on to the show.
Well, maybe it was. We don't know.
Oh, man. Man, as much as I love Hogan's Heroes, Mr. Bob Dabalina, I mean, that's just classic too. Oh boy, I think I'm gonna go with Mr. Bob Dabalina.
Mr. Bob. Gary.
Hogan's Heroes was my dad's favorite show. My sister, my oldest sister, actually met Bob Crane when he was appearing in an off Broadway production. Got to shake his hand and stuff like that. No disrespect to Mr. Bob Dobalina. Never met the man in person. I'm sure he's a great guy. But I'm going to go with Bob Crane.
Bob Crane. You know, there's a music album with the cast of Hogan's Heroes.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Bob Crane also did videos after Hogan's Heroes too.
Well, I didn't want to bring up that. Miss Country Rimfire said, Mr. Bob. Fuku YT, Mr. Bob. A lot of love for Mr. Bob. Mr. Bob Dobalina said, Bob Crane is way more interesting. Drummer, porn actor, died mysterious death and played drums on the theme song for Hogan's Heroes.
See, even Mr. Bob wouldn't vote for himself.
Ozzy said Crane. And Miss Mike Nesmith heard Mr. Bob Dobalina paged over PA in a store. Bob was the manager. He liked the lyrical sound of the name, got used to it. He got it. It got used in the Monkey song Zilch. That's, yep, Mr. Bob Dobalina. Mr. Bob Dobalina.
Wait a minute, is he talking about Michael Nesmith of the Monkees?
Yeah, it's a monkey. Mr. Bob Zilch is a monkey song, and it's Mr. Bob Dobalina. That's the lyrics of the song.
Now I put that together. Dang it.
Oh, I guess I have to vote, don't I?
It's kind of the way this works, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say Bob Crane only because he has had more. I really love the show and has had more of an impact. But Mr. Bob is actually going to move forward because everybody in the chat has voted Mr. Bob. So Mr. Bob makes the second round. So now we've got Bob Ross,
Congrats!
the painter, versus Bob, the robot from the black hole. Barbecue.
Well, I do believe I'm just going to put a nice little tree over here and another tree right next to it.
So one for Bob Ross. Happy little tree. There are no mistakes, just happy accidents.
Happy trees for me. I'll tell you,
Billy?
Bob Ross.
Happy trees to
Bob Ross.
you.
Gizzard.
Bob Ross is still a cultural icon today. I've never even heard of this robot thing. So, Bob Ross, definitely.
Yeah, as a kid, I loved the movie The Black Hole. It's a Disney movie. And the voice of Bob was Slim Pickens. He did the voice for the robot Bob.
That's better than Slim Whitman, I suppose.
Hey, Slim Whitman saved the world from the Martian invasion. But I'm going to have to go Bob Ross. The cultural phenomenon, Bob Ross. And Ozzy said Ross. There, he agreed. So now we've got Bob Marley versus Bob Gibson. The One Love versus a curveball. Barbecue.
Gibson.
One for Gibson. Hillbilly. Oh. May have been called away again. So we'll go to Gary.
I'm pretty sure that Bob Marley never pitched a no-hitter and never appeared in the World Series and is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I'm going to have to go with Bob Gibson here.
Are you back, Hillbilly?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to run the little boy's room.
So Bob Marley or Bob Gibson?
I want to go with Bob Gibson on this, man. I think that's my pick.
Oh. Ichiro was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. So
I saw that.
Made it into the Hall. Which I was very surprised by that he got 99.7% of the vote. When he was a player, he was not respected by a lot of the writers, so I was very surprised.
Every time I ever saw him play, I was just amazed. There wasn't anything he couldn't do.
He was, I think, one of the he had a really good personality too.
Yeah.
But he never showed it.
But he was just so consistent that he never really stood out because he just kept doing it every day, every day, every day.
There still isn't anything the guy can't do. Like over in Japan now, he'll play in these like celebrity games where he'll still pitch nearly 90 mile an hour. And you're like, what? I think he's pushing 50 years old almost, and to be throwing 88, 89 mile an hour fastballs, I'm like, that's just insane.
You talking about Bob Marley?
Yeah. What allows him to do it is those dreads.
And the Mariners retired his number, which they retired it because that was also Johnson's number, the big unit. When they retired his number, and then Ichiro asked, "Can I please use the number?" He said yes, so they're going to re-retire number 51, which I know probably nobody cares, but
I did not realize that Randy Johnson played for the Mariners at any point in his career.
What?
Yeah, I did not realize that.
He you can basically say he started with the Mariners.
Yeah,
they didn't draft him, but when they traded for him, and he was kind of a wild pitcher. And then one year he talked with the Ranger pitcher, Ryan, and gave him some. He talked with Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan fixed his pitching, and he became the Cy Young winner that he became.
Yep.
But like I said, nobody's gonna really care. But I'm gonna vote for Bob Marley. But Bob Gibson is moving on. So now we've got Bob Vila versus Bob Denver. Sergeant Joe Smith is out there. So barbecue, Bob Vila or Bob Denver?
I'm going to vote for the Saboteur.
So Bob Denver. Hillbilly.
I'm going to go with Gilligan on this one.
2 for Gilligan. Gary?
I'm going to have to go with Maynard on this one.
Reps. Garage guys out there. Good evening. So Mr. Bob said Bob Denver. Sergeant Joe Smith said Bob Vila. Oh, I'll probably go with Bob Denver. So Gilligan is moving on. He's getting off the island here. Now we've got Bob Uecker versus Bob Newhart.
Oh, man.
Barbecue.
You got Bob Newhart coming up to the plate. He's about to strike out. Yep, and that one's just a bit outside, and he swung in this. We're going with Bob Uecker all day.
Bob Uecker. Hillbilly.
Another tough one. Oh, man. As much as I love Uecker, I'm going to go with Newhart.
One for Newhart. Gary.
Gonna have to go with Uecker.
Oops. One for Uecker. Ozzy said without Bob Hope, this bracket is dead to me. Sergeant Joseph Smith said Mr. Baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Bob said it must be in the front row. Oh.
Tough one.
It is kind of a tough one.
I mean, I absolutely love
Newhart,
both
though.
of them.
So this one's going out to the chat again. I want Bob Newhart.
I haven't seen any Newhart votes out in the chat.
No. So I think it's going to go to Uecker. So I think we'll call that one for Uecker. Now we got Mr. Bob Dabalina versus Bob Ross. Barbecue.
Sorry, Mr. Bob. Gave you the benefit of the doubt against Hogan's Heroes there, but it's going to be hard to do against Bob Ross. Sorry, bud.
One for Bob Ross. Hillbilly.
This is one of the tougher poll or brackets I've had to do. Man, I think I'm going to go with Bob Ross. I mean, man, just just brought joy to so many people, and so does Bob Dabalina. But I mean, it kind of just overshadows him with his happy trees.
Gary.
I gotta tell you, this Bob Dabalina guy is kind of impressive. So
He is.
gonna have to give it to Mr. Bob.
One for Mr. Bob. Fuku YT he did say Newhart, so there was at least one vote for you. Newhart out there. Mr. Bob said they named the bad seats the Uecker section for that commercial. And Mr. Bob said, no problem, vote how you feel. Oh, Sergeant Joe Smith, Ross. He was in the Army before Happy Clouds and Happy Trees. Fuku YT said Mr. Bob discovered nuclear fusion. And Mr. Bob said, my mom took up oil painting because of Bob Ross. So yeah, he's a cool guy for sure. My sister did too. She kind of was inspired by Bob Ross.
My mom was the same way.
I had a picture that she had painted for me that I was started using in the backgrounds, but it was too large. So I'd asked her to make a smaller one. It was Washington State, but she ended up moving, and before she painted it for me.
Yeah, I actually have 3 of my mom's oil paintings in the house here right now that she's done during that period.
I wonder if Mr. Bob ever painted anything.
I don't know.
Probably the Light Fantastic. Sergeant Joe Smith said, I did an oil paint in class in school after watching Bob Ross as a kid. Yeah, and Bob Ross's big fuzzy hair, he hated that. but everybody kind of knew him by it, so he kept it for branding. But he didn't really like it. So now we've got Bob Gibson versus Bob Denver.
Oh man,
Barbecue.
Oh, Gibson. I don't even know why I had to think about that. Gibson.
One for Gibson. Hillbilly.
oh man, this just keeps getting tougher. I'm just gonna go with Bob Denver because Gilligan, had more of an impression on my life growing up. Even though I am a diehard Cards fan.
So one Denver. Gary.
You guys are never going to win another World Series now.
I don't believe Bob Denver ever pitched in the majors. I could be wrong. But I'm not real sure.
Well, he pitched a lot of stuff to the skipper.
Gibson pitched in 16 different major league seasons. I don't believe Bob Denver's career would have been that long, but as far as series he appeared on, I don't believe they were 16. I'm going to have to go with Gibson here.
So 2 for Gibson. Sergeant Joe Smith said Gibson. This one's going to go to the chat again. I'm going to go Denver just because I know of Bob Gibson, but I don't know a lot about him. So far, Gibson's winning it because there's one vote for Gibson, so we need everybody to vote out there.
Baseball player or Gilligan? Or W. Gillis show?
While we're kind of waiting for that, we'll move on to the other one. Bob Uecker versus Bob Ross. Barbecue.
Uecker.
Like I said, this keeps getting harder and harder.
Barbecue's a catcher.
Bob Ross again on this one.
Barbecue's a catcher, not a pitcher.
I've heard that.
So which one are you going, Hillbilly?
Bob Ross, please.
Bob Ross.
What?
Garage Guy said Bob Gibson was a badass pitcher. Can't go against him.
See, Garage Guy's right on point here.
Yeah, Sergeant Joe said Gibson also.
Gary, Uecker or Ross?
Uecker.
Bob Uecker. Uh-oh. Sergeant Joe Smith said Uecker. Fuku YT said Ross. I'm actually going to go Ross. So this is going back to the chat. What were you saying, Barbecue?
I was going to say the only right answer here is Uecker.
Got 2 Ueckers and a Ross out there right now.
So
now
far,
you guys are trying to influence the vote out there.
I'm just reading what's in the chat.
Fuku YT said Ross. Joe Smith's Uecker. So we'll give it. We'll give it
an all baseball final. Wow.
Looks like it might be.
The pitcher versus the catcher.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Well, looks like
Or as Elon Musk would say, Gesundheit.
we'll give it to Euchre. So now it's up to whether you like to give it or you like to get it.
Won't lie, these last 2 rounds for Euchre have really given me a mild heart attack. Like, he's gotten through by the skin of his teeth. I don't understand this. Like, have you people not watched Major League or Major League 2 or anything? Like, good God.
Yeah, I mean, when you still in diapers, there was a sitcom out that I watched before that even, and loved the guy. I mean, I agree
I will
with you.
say, just because I didn't vote for them does not mean that I hate them.
Yeah.
I have to choose between the two, and one might have influenced me more than the other one, and that's the one I went.
I've been trying to base my votes on the impact they've had in my life, and all these have actually been really good.
So which one are you going barbecue? Gibson? Or
So I say, if you know help me now, Jobu, fuck you. It's okay. Nobody's listening anyway. Going Euchre.
So one for Euchre.
I mean, let's face it. For a couple of those seasons, Euchre was catcher for Gibson, and you know what? If he didn't frame those pitches up right, maybe Gibson wasn't as dominating as he was. So, at the end of the day, it's up to the catcher.
Well, Hillbilly, Gibson or Euchre?
Oh, man. Honestly, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, though, that this has been one of the hardest brackets I think I've done in a very long time. They've all been good choices. If I'm like I said, I'm gonna base this on what experience of my life, and both of these people has had a big impact on my life. But I'm gonna go with Euchre on this. Euchre.
2 for Euchre. Gary.
Just a second.
Is that angry?
Did you know that Bob Gibson in his career had 24 home runs as a pitcher?
Did not know that.
Bob Euchre only had 14.
Bob Euchre only played like what, 6 seasons or something like that.
If you know anything
he had a pretty short career.
If you know anything about the game of baseball, you would know that the catcher is pretty much the captain of the field. He calls the throws from the outfield. He directs the throws. He has to back up throws to first base. He calls every pitch generally.
Yeah, he has to
he has to have the game plan for the game. So he has to study the opposing hitters and find out their tendencies and stuff like that. All the pitcher has to do is do what he's told. Throw a fastball. Yeah.
Part of that is the catcher is the only player that sees the entire game.
That's correct. And has to squat down doing it the entire time. And in honor of his recent death, I'm casting my vote for Bob Euchre. You can now move to the front row, Bob.
I forgot that he did die recently. That sucks. Way to bring it down at the end there, Gary. Crap.
Mr. Bob said Gibby had a better baseball career. Euchre had a longer run because of his announcing work after baseball.
Yep.
Ozzy said, imagine that. Bob wins.
Bob Gibson wasn't funny.
Sergeant Joe Smith said Mr. Belvedere. Garage Guy said Mr. Belvedere. Sergeant Joe Smith said Euchre. Mr. Bob Dabalina If I was in the same room with both of them, I'd say Gibby out of self-preservation, but Euchre adapted better to life after baseball and was really funny and clever.
Yeah.
Raj Guy. Bob Gibson was the Tom Brady of pitchers. These younger guys didn't have the honor of watching him.
I don't know what younger fella you're talking about.
I'm gonna go with Euchre again, just because I know of Gibson. I know he was a good pitcher, but I've never watched him. So Bob Euchre has been voted the best Bob.
Well, I'm mildly curious. Just what would have happened if we had to do Bob Gibson against Bob Ross?
I will say I did not know how this one would come out. I would not have guessed Bob Euchre would have won.
Not at the beginning, I wouldn't have. Yeah.
Just for shits and giggles, can we go around the room and do Bob Gibson versus Bob Ross? Because I'm kind of curious, because Bob Ross almost took out Euchre, and Euchre just went unanimously over Bob Gibson.
Well, I would vote Ross.
I know I would go Gibson over Ross, because the guy was an animal on the mound. And that's not like I don't like Bob Ross. I just like baseball more than I like trees.
What about you, Gary?
Ross.
Hillbilly?
Oh, man. All these have been tough. Man. I think I would still go with Ross on this.
Oh, okay. So the bottom half of that bracket was just that friggin' strong then. Okay.
Strong like bull.
Yep.
Oh. Well, I wanted G-Webs here because I was going to talk some movies and TV shows stuff. I watched Deadpool, Wolverine. Watched that movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
I liked it, but it wasn't. There wasn't a lot of substance to it.
I was hoping that would be a wonderful movie. I've not seen it yet.
I have not seen any Deadpool movies.
I liked the first one. The second one was okay. Third one was.
Well, put this way, with the Deadpool Wolverine, as long as it's took to come out, I think I've watched more interviews and all that stuff and like videos than the time of actually the movie runs. And they all were funny. I mean, I loved those two guys together in interviews and video clips and stuff. I was really hoping the movie was great.
And I watched. I went back. I did go back and watch Book of Boba Fett, which I had quit watching it halfway through the first episode because I thought it was terrible. I did go back and watch it. So I thought I'd give it a chance, and it was. Wasn't great. Boba Fett seemed really weak. It was not the strong character that I would have expected for a Boba Fett, so it was a little disappointing. That, and he takes over the town, the territory that the Hutt had, and he called the position a daimyo, which drove me crazy because daimyo is a Japanese feudal lord. So every time they'd say daimyo, I would think of a Japanese feudal lord. I wish they would have come up with some made-up word. But, that's just personal quibble. I watched Loki, which I thought there were parts of it which I thought were pretty good, and some of it was not so pretty good. I think that was the bulk of the. I mean, those are shows have been out for a while, but I've only recently had Disney Plus. So. Mr. Bob said, just going to float along, sort of Bob here. Garage Guy said, keeping quiet, nothing else to say. And I'm not, I'm not saying anything bad about Bob Gibson.
Oh, evidently, definitely not. Great.
I just don't have experience with Bob Gibson. So that's kind of why I didn't vote for him. If it had been him versus someone else that I knew of, knew their reputation, but didn't really know a lot about him, might have been a tougher choice for me. But, I just kind of went with what I was familiar with. Garage Guy said Captain Lorca from Discovery was much better than that Loki stuff. I didn't watch Discovery. That's another one where I watched the first episode was a two-parter. I only made it through the first half, and it's not Star Trek. So I didn't watch it. Plus, I didn't have the channel that it's on, so I did not go out of my way to watch it. And now none of that is canon. They have removed it from canon. So, I don't know. Anything else new with you guys?
I mean, me and my wife's been going back and watching some older shows. One that we had started watching a few years back was the second generation of basically MacGyver, the second one. And we kind of enjoyed that, when it was on regular TV. And then I think we'd shuffle between like Dish and Direct TV or something and lost the recordings on, the DVR and stuff. And so we ended up this last month going back and watching, some of these, not real old, but, older, shows. And we sure enjoyed some of those. And, but there's still some good new ones out. We've enjoyed watching Landman and, a few of those.
What's that one? I've never heard of that one.
Billy Bob Thornton. It's about basically West Texas oil drilling. And actually, Billy Bob Thornton, like, most usually plays, Sling Blade, Bad Santa, this and that. But in this one, he's kind of almost like just a kind of a normal guy, but he's funny. Just being a normal guy. And so, I've really enjoyed, just seeing that side of his acting career. But yeah, it's worth watching. Nothing super spectacular, but yeah, it's not bad.
I don't know. I think Billy Bob is a good actor. He's kind of a weirdo.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. In this one, he's not a weirdo. That's what I'm saying. It's like an off-roll for him. He's like just a kind of a normal guy, but he's he's funny in this one, you know, in a way, just being normal, you know, and so, which I always enjoy comedy.
There's a Billy Bob movie, Pushing 10. It's him and John Cusack, and they're what the hell were they? Air Control.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's from 1999. It's kind of it's not, you know, not the greatest movie, but it was just kind of, I remember liking it when I saw it. It was something a little different. Garage Guy. Lorca didn't appear on Discovery until episode 3. Lorca was the same kind of captain as Picard in Next Generation episode Yesterday's Enterprise. Why doesn't anyone get this? I thought, from the little bit of Discovery I watched, I would have liked to see Michelle Yeoh, not in, from what I've heard, the section, I forget what the section name is, that she's in now, which is supposed to be terrible. But the way she was captain in Discovery, in the little bit that I watched, I would have liked to see more of that character. Mr. Bob Barker had a game show called Truth or Consequences. Hot Springs, New Mexico changed their name to Truth or Consequences to get the show to broadcast from there. It's for its 10th anniversary.
Huh.
There's Pullman, Washington, where Washington State University is. They named their town after the Pullman, the train guy, to try and get money from him. So they named the city Pullman to hopefully get donations from him. And he said, "Yeah, no, I'm not giving it that." Garage Guy said Section 31 was an okay movie. Could have been better, leading off for other movie. And Woods said Pack 2.
Hey, Woods.
Yeah, that's the Pack 10, or well, Pack, which became the Pack 12, which is now the Pack 2 because everybody left. That they're trying to rebuild. Oh, barbecue. Mr. Barbecue. Lovely Mr. Barbecue.
Mr. Cost.
Is there anything new you got coming up? Anything you want to let everybody know about?
Way back in November, I bought a photo printer, and it's not just any run-of-the-mill photo printer that you would get for just, you know, doing fun little things at home. Like, this is big, heavy-duty thing. It's like 80 pounds just in itself. And I got it, and like a week and a half, 2 weeks later after getting it, finally figured out where I wanted to put it, went to get it set up, and I kept getting a error message when I got partway through the setup process, and I'm like, what in the world? And being me and whatnot, it took me a little while to call Canon and say, hey, what's going on here? So called Canon finally, and they were like, yeah, we're going to send you a new one because we think that there is something bent in shipping or something. So new printer will be here on Tuesday. I'm pretty excited. So then I will be able to cut out the middleman and do all my printing on site. I'll be able to do prints up to 17 inches, and really could theoretically do them as long as I want. But like a 17 by 19 or 11 by 17, depending on, format that you want them in, seems to be the going sizes on max size. But yeah, pretty stoked about that. But that's all that's really new with me. Like I said before, whenever I am on here, it's wrestling season, so that eats up majority of my life, and that's why I end up absent, because just on the weekends I'm tired, and I'm up at 5 a.m. to go to tournaments, and then by the time I get home, it's 7 or 8 at night, and fall asleep and do it all again the next day. And so yeah.
So you're going to open a barbecue and photo shack? 1 hour barbecue?
There you go. Probably not a bad idea. I kind of got out of the barbecue stuff, though. Just people didn't want to pay for it. People don't want to pay for anything, though. What am I talking about? So,
well, a lot of people underestimate how much time something's going to take and how much money it's going to cost.
Even with the photography stuff, they're like, "Oh, you were only here for a couple hours, photographing this football game or something." Like, yeah, but you don't realize the editing process takes anywhere from 3 to 6 times the amount of time that you took to photograph whatever it was. So,
Gary, how about you? You got a lot of videos you got to edit for your
I do.
Show?
Whole bunch of stuff I need to edit. Got some stuff backed up from before I left that I need to get done, plus new stuff coming in. So I'm going to be a busy gizzard for a while. Also resuming the live streams this next week. So Wednesday night, the members only stream at 8 p.m. And then Friday night, Foul Territory comes back at 9 p.m. Central. So thanks for having me.
Fine Ape is out there. Hey, Ape. So we got a mouse eating barbecue hillbilly chicken. I'll take 3. How about you, hillbilly? Anything you want to know about?
Yeah, we of course we got Guns Beer and Therapy every Saturday night, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern, and we always hope everybody swing by and visit us there. But yeah, I do have some videos coming out. Mainly some reviews and stuff, and waiting for the weather to warm up just a little bit to get back out onto the range. And but yeah, we always got stuff coming out every week. So appreciate you doing this and having us, having me on. Foss, always fun.
Well, I appreciate you. And I'm just waiting for a comment to pop up. There we go. MTA.
Mock out there.
Parents, do you know where your kids are? Well, I've got the YouTube studio open also, so I'll see the chat there first, and then have to wait for it to pop up on the Eevee Mux so that I can show it. And there's a couple second delay in that. So once again, if you watch this replay, leave a comment. Let me know who your favorite Bob is. And I appreciate everybody that was out there in the live chat. If you didn't say anything, don't be afraid to speak up. At least just say hi and let me know that you're out there. And next chat will be next Saturday. Other than that, don't forget to thank your local Bob and tip your waitress. And I hope everybody has a good rest of the night and go do something good.